Fame is Hollywood's ultimate sleight of hand, a dazzling industry designed to construct a pristine, flawless shell around figures the world desperately wants to worship. For generations, we have been fed a strict psychological diet of clean-cut icons, charismatic trailblazers, and beloved mentors dominating our screens and media feeds. We celebrated their triumphs under the forgiving spotlight, mistaking the calculated luster of celebrity for genuine moral framework. But when the theater lights fade and the studio audience falls silent, an entirely separate, predatory reality takes over. Behind the heavy velvet curtains of public relations lies an underworld of calculated malice, earth-shattering secrets, and a devastating catalog of cold-blooded betrayals. For these individuals, global admiration was not an honor. It was a weaponized survival strategy, a perfect mechanism utilized to manipulate, threaten, and cover up depravity that would make the public shudder. Today, we are strip-mining the facade. We are peeling back the luxury layer by layer to dissect 17 famous black celebrities who completely weaponized their platform to execute horrific crimes, leaving behind an unfillable void where their legacy used to be. Brace yourselves. The illusion is shattered. OJ Simpson. Mode D, the systemic critique. Look at the predatory machinery of American media and the legal system, and you will see how a sports icon can be transformed into an untouchable pawn to expose the deep racial prejudices of a nation. Long before he became the center of a media storm, O.J. Simpson was an NFL superstar, a movie personality, and a beloved symbol of black success who lived within a carefully manicured, dazzling illusion. But on the night of June 12, 1994, inside the quiet darkness of Brentwood, that picture-perfect aura collided with a monstrous reality. Driven by an obsessive, toxic romance, he quietly approached his ex-wife, Nicole Brown, from behind, unleashing a brutal knife attack that left her and her friend, Ronald Goldman, lifeless on a stone walkway. The systemic blade of his defense team brilliantly manipulated the societal divide. 5 days later, 95 million viewers watched a white Ford Bronco lead a slow-motion police chase down the Los Angeles freeway, interrupting the NBA Finals as a surreal spectacle of celebrity exceptionalism. During the criminal trial, his lawyers weaponized a tight, blood-stained leather glove, chanting the infamous mantra, "If it doesn't fit, you must acquit," to sow reasonable doubt into the minds of a deeply divided jury. He walked away with a controversial not guilty verdict, but the unfillable void of his dark nature could not be satisfied by a legal escape. 10 years after a civil court stripped him of his wealth, the illusion shattered permanently on September 13, 2007, when he led an armed group into a Las Vegas hotel room, holding collectors at gunpoint to steal back his own sports memorabilia. This final, reckless scheme earned him a harsh 33-year prison sentence, proving that the crushing pressure of past glory will eventually drag a man down into the deepest abyss. The flashbulbs of 1,000 paparazzi cameras suddenly stop blinking, leaving a retired superstar standing in the harsh glare of a mugshot camera that records the definitive end of an unearned redemption. Bill Cosby. Mode at the forensic. Look closely at the vintage, multicolored knit Coogie sweater draped over the shoulders of a man laughing genially on a 1980s studio set. A textile artifact that became the universal visual anchor for the image of America's dad. That soft, inviting wool was a calculated masterpiece of camouflage, designed to project a picture-perfect family aura while masking a calculating, predatory monster. Behind that friendly mentor facade lay an earth-shattering secret that the systemic blade of Hollywood protected for over 40 years. The operational methodology was chillingly clinical, a toxic double life executed with clockwork precision. On a midsummer night in 1969, inside a luxurious suite at the Plaza Hotel, it was a single glass of red wine laced with a dissolving quaalude that transformed 22-year-old editor Joan into a paralyzed captive, completely stripping away her ability to resist before a cold warning buried her trauma in silence. By January 1982, the setting shifted to a sprawling Beverly Hills villa, where 27-year-old model Janice was handed 2 white pills under the guise of relaxation, waking up from her chemical paralysis to a large sum of cash tossed indifferently at her feet. The pattern was flawless until January 13, 2004, when sports staff member Andrea Const walked into his Pennsylvania home, drank a laced glass of water, and woke up to a reality that refused to be silenced by explicit photos or legal threats. When the dam finally broke, more than 60 women came forward to rip away the moral veneer, exposing a vast, unfillable void where a national patriarch once stood, and leaving the public with the devastating realization that their most trusted cultural father was merely a predator hiding behind a colorful sweater. The warm, cheerful applause of a network television studio abruptly cuts to the stark, metallic snap of a pair of handcuffs, turning a decades-long legacy of moral lecturing into absolute tabloid fodder. Don King, Mode B, the reverse tragedy, the roaring, multi-million-dollar spectacles of the Rumble in the Jungle and the Thrilla in Manila saw a bombastic powerhouse standing at the absolute center of the sports world, a legendary boxing promoter commanding the global spotlight with gravity-defying hair and a flag-waving smile. Yet, if you peel away the glittering layers of that sporting empire, you are thrust back into the blood-soaked pavement of Cleveland's underworld. Long before he was a global icon, Don King was an erratic force of raw agony whose path to power was paved with human skulls. On a scorching afternoon on April 20th, 1966, the dazzling illusion of his rising business vanished on the sidewalk of Cedar Avenue when an argument over a $600 debt became a public execution. King unleashed a relentless barrage of stomps and kicks onto the skull of his former employee, Sam Garrett, ignoring the panicked screams of passers-by for 10 agonizing minutes until Garrett's brain was completely pulverized, leading to his death 3 days later. The systemic blade of his charm somehow minimized his manslaughter conviction, but this broad daylight slaughter was merely a duplication of his dark history. 12 years prior, inside a smoke-filled illegal gambling den on September 15, 1954, King had already proven his ice-cold instincts, pulling a gun from under a counter and firing 2 fatal shots that left an armed robber dead on the spot. The public continued to let him control the boxing world for decades, but both incidents stood as an unshakable truth. Beneath the theatrical catchphrases was a ruthless killer who measured the value of a human life in pocket change. The deafening bell rings to announce the start of a historic heavyweight championship match, but the sound fails to drown out the sickening, historical crunch of a leather shoe fracturing a man's skull on a hot concrete sidewalk. Rick James, Mode C, the immersive witness. I remember the heavy, suffocating scent of expensive cognac and freebase cocaine drifting out of that brightly lit Hollywood Hills villa on the night of July 16, 1991. To the music industry, Rick James was the uncrowned king of funk, the wild icon behind Super Freak, who lived a life of unbridled ecstasy. But if you stood inside those locked doors after midnight, you would have witnessed a descent into pure medieval sadism. I watched the glamorous illusion evaporate into raw agony for 24-year-old Frances, who came looking for a career opportunity only to find herself tied up, hostage to a 3-day nightmare. The closed space completely swallowed her screams as a crack pipe was heated until it glowed red, leaving more than 20 searing burns across her weakened body, while Rick watched the psychological torture unfold for his own sick pleasure. The systemic blade of a multi-million-dollar legal team allowed him to post bail, but his depravity couldn't be contained by a court date. On November 27, 1992, inside a suite at the St. James Club, 35-year-old music executive Mary Sager walked in to resolve a financial dispute and was met with a merciless onslaught of fists and belts. Her left arm was snapped, her vision permanently damaged, and she was locked in a dark bathroom for 20 agonizing hours. By the time hotel staff pulled her out, the rock star myth was completely shattered, leaving behind the reality of a 2-year prison sentence and a $2 million civil payout that proved his brilliant funk legacy was fueled by a violent, unfillable void. The frantic, pounding rhythm of a bass guitar suddenly cuts out, leaving only the chilling sound of a heavy wooden door locking from the outside, sealing a fresh victim into a private chamber of horrors. Kelly, Mode E, the paradox of peaks. In the mid-1990s, Kelly was ascending to the absolute zenith of the music industry, hailed as the undisputed king of R&B whose chart-topping anthems dominated global airwaves and defined the sound of a generation. He was a musical powerhouse wrapped in a dazzling stage illusion of untouchable creative genius. Yet this very peak served as the ultimate camouflage for a highly calculated, predatory network of abuse. The sudden drop into a decades-long double life was quietly certified on August 31, 1994, inside a Rosemont hotel suite, where he orchestrated a secret, illegal marriage to a 15-year-old Aaliyah after falsifying her government documents to read 18. While his fame grew to astronomical heights, the systemic blade of the entertainment industry continuously protected his depravity, allowing his grooming methods to become terrifyingly sophisticated. By June 2010, the picture-perfect illusion shattered completely behind the doors of a Chicago studio apartment, where 16-year-old Geronda Pace was held captive for 2 full weeks under the guise of a major recording contract. Inside that claustrophobic space, which functioned as a twisted cult, Kelly subjected the naive girl to raw agony, controlling her basic human needs, installing cameras to film explicit videos, and delivering heavy blows to crush any thought of resistance. He maintained a generous public persona while forcing victims to sign non-disclosure agreements in exchange for bags of cash, burying his chilling crimes in an unfillable void of systemic silence. It wasn't until the explosive 2019 documentary ripped away his forgiving spotlight that the law finally caught up, dismantling his organized system of trauma and cementing a combined 31-year prison sentence that transformed a musical king into a permanently disgraced monster. The majestic opening chords of a multi-platinum ballad suddenly distort and fade, replaced by the grating, rhythmic echo of a heavy iron gate, locking a fallen musical emperor into 3 decades of absolute silence. Suge Knight. Mode F, the inanimate observer. If the dented aluminum frame of a metal baseball bat abandoned in the trunk of a luxury car could speak, it would recount the ice-cold evolution of an entertainment mogul who built a music empire on a foundation of raw agony. In the mid-1990s, Suge Knight was the terrifying powerhouse behind Death Row Records, a dominant figure manipulating the global hip-hop landscape under the dazzling stage lights of a cultural revolution. But that multi-platinum success was merely a glamorous camouflage for a toxic double life rooted in the underworld. On the rainy night of November 3, 1995, outside a Las Vegas nightclub, the metal bat witnessed the absolute destruction of that picture-perfect executive facade. It felt the heavy impact of Suge's massive frame as he swung relentlessly into the flesh of 2 helpless victims, leaving one with a permanently deformed arm and the other unconscious on the wet pavement. The systemic blade of his legal team secured a suspended sentence, but his violent paranoia couldn't be contained by probation. Less than a year later, on September 7, 1996, the mirrors inside a cramped elevator at the MGM Grand Hotel watched in horror as Suge and Tupac Shakur cornered a rival gang member, raining down punches and kicks that left the victim partially paralyzed and earned Suge a 9-year prison sentence. The final unfixable drop occurred on January 29, 2015, through the windshield of a red Ford F-150 truck in a Compton parking lot. The headlights illuminated 2 unsuspecting men before Suge accelerated, crushing them beneath his wheels once, then shifting into reverse to run them over a second time. This cold-blooded slaughter left Terry Carter dead on the asphalt, permanently shattering the industry's forgiving spotlight and securing a 28-year prison sentence that ensures the rap titan will spend the rest of his life staring at concrete walls. The heavy bass of a studio monitor suddenly cuts out, replaced by the screeching of tires and a sickening crunch of metal that seals a ruthless tyrant's fate in an unfillable void of isolation. See Murder. Mode G, the psychological ghost. Inside the chaotic mind of Corey Miller, a toxic double life was brewing beneath the multi-platinum success of the no-limit hip-hop empire. On stage, he was C-Murder, wrapped in a dazzling stage illusion of raw, street-certified grit that drove millions of fans to cheer. But that promotional persona was a dangerous psychological ghost that slowly consumed his true identity, transforming him into a genuinely ruthless force in real life. The systemic blade of his environment had convinced him that his celebrity status made him completely untouchable, a belief that shattered on July 18, 2001, when security staff at a Baton Rouge club firmly stopped him from bringing a firearm inside. Driven by an unfillable void of volatile anger, Miller pulled out the weapon and fired 2 loud shots into the night, forcing the club owner to panic as the crowd scattered. But his ultimate descent into raw agony occurred on the night of January 12, 2002, inside the flashing neon lights of the Platinum Club in Harvey, Louisiana, when a 16-year-old boy named Steve Thomas accidentally bumped into his shoulder on the packed dance floor. The sudden drop was instantaneous. Miller's expression twisted into pure malice, a gun appeared, and a single shot cut through the thumping music, collapsing the teenager onto the floor. For 7 years, a series of complex appeals dragged out the legal process, but the picture-perfect illusion of his rap stardom was permanently ruined. In 2009, a definitive second-degree murder conviction handed down a life sentence without parole, locking the rapper away in a concrete tomb where the phantom of his stage name can no longer protect him from the chilling reality of his actions. The vibrant, thumping bass line of a crowded dance club is violently snuffed out by the piercing ring of a single gunshot, leaving an entire room of cheering fans frozen in a state of absolute terror. Mystical. Mode H, the statistical descent. If you want to measure the moral decay of a prominent hip-hop powerhouse, you must trace the cold, arithmetic progression of his criminal record. A timeline of raw agony that completely strips away his multiple Grammy nominations. Michael Tyler built a dazzling stage illusion of chaotic, high-energy artistry, but the systemic blade of his personal choices transformed his career into a series of terrifying numbers. The countdown toward a permanent, unfillable void began on December 12, 2003, at 7 p.m., inside a Baton Rouge hair salon. Over the span of 60 agonizing minutes, Tyler locked a female hairstylist in a rear restroom, violently slapping her and forcing her to perform oral sex to settle a financial debt. That single hour of brutality cost him exactly 6 years of his life behind bars after a guilty plea for sexual battery. But the prison sentence failed to rehabilitate his mind. On June 17, 2012, a second violent metric was recorded when a domestic dispute over money ended with Tyler beating his ex-girlfriend with his bare hands until she slammed into a wall. The final, catastrophic drop materialized on November 15, 2022, at 1:30 a.m. After meeting a 28-year-old woman on a dating app, he forced her into sex, choked her until she lost consciousness, and then forced her to send exactly $800 via Cash App to compensate for his time. By March 2026, the mathematics of justice delivered its definitive receipt. An official guilty plea to third-degree rape that placed a devastating 20-year prison sentence over his head, ensuring that the king of Southern rap will watch his final decade slip away in absolute isolation. The bright neon signs of a global music festival are suddenly replaced by the clinical, fluorescent glare of a hospital ward, where a severely bruised victim points an unwavering finger at a fallen star. Lloyd Avery 2. Mode I, the ripple of one choice. If you want to understand the tragic destruction of a rising Hollywood powerhouse, you must trace the sudden drop back to a single, fateful decision made in a dark alleyway in south-central Los Angeles. On the night of July 27, 1999, at 11:20 p.m., Lloyd Avery 2, celebrated for his chillingly authentic breakout role as a cold-blooded killer in Boys and the Hood, chose to let a minor drug debt dictate his destiny. Instead of driving away and clinging to his dazzling stage lights, he chose to step out of the car, pulling a real firearm to settle a petty dispute with two local youths. Multiple gunshots tore through the night, leaving both victims dead on the cracked concrete and fracturing his picture-perfect executive facade forever. There was no director to yell, "Cut!" this time. The systemic blade of the legal system caught up with him in 2001, handing down a devastating life sentence that trapped him in an unfillable void of a maximum security prison. The final, terrifying ripple of his violent choice manifested on September 4, 2005, inside California State Prison in Lancaster. Avery was cornered inside his own cell by an inmate from an extremist religious sect, who subjected him to raw agony during a bizarre exorcism ritual, wrapping a rope around his neck and stabbing him dozens of times before guards could intervene. His life ended in a pool of blood before he could ever salvage his talent, leaving his film career as a haunting, prophetic frame of his own gruesome end. The flickering neon title of a classic Hollywood film fades completely to black, replaced by the heavy, silent slam of a steel morgue drawer closing on a man who became a casualty of the very streets he romanticized. Robert Rogier. Mode J, the social media illusion. If a modern public relations team had attempted to manage the public profile of Robert Rogier in 1986, they would have designed a dazzling stage illusion of a rising NFL star, a picture-perfect visual of an elite professional athlete destined for athletic immortality. But long before his career could materialize on the grand stage, That clean-cut veneer was completely shattered by a toxic double life rooted in an extremist religious cult called the Nation of Yahweh. The public expected a powerhouse athlete, but the reality was a man plunging into raw agony and executing cold-blooded executions. On the night of November 9, 1986, the systemic blade of the cult dictated a horrifying assignment. Rozier and two accomplices stormed a Miami residence, inflicting multiple stab wounds that left a 42-year-old homeowner and his wife dead in a pool of blood. The true chilling nature of the crime emerged when Rozier collected the victim's severed ears as a gruesome token of absolute loyalty, a pattern he repeated across 7 brutal murders that same year. When the law caught up with him, he chose survival over loyalty, testifying against the cult to escape a death sentence and secure a clean slate under a new identity within the Witness Protection Program. Yet, his true nature could not be rehabilitated. On March 22, 2001, his new alias collapsed under a massive financial fraud scheme involving over $400,000 in counterfeit checks. The three strikes law was swiftly applied, delivering a definitive life sentence that buried his athletic potential under a mountain of disgrace and leaving an unfillable void where a sports legacy should have been. The roaring cheers of a packed football stadium fade into an eerie, dead silence, leaving nothing but the cold, clinical click of a typewriter recording the new, anonymous prison number of a man who traded his cleats for a bag of severed human ears. Kwame M. Kilpatrick. Mode A, the forensic. Look closely at the custom-tailored, silk-lined designer suit draping over the broad shoulders of a young political powerhouse on a 2007 election night. A perfect visual anchor for the historic image of Detroit's hip-hop mayor. That flawless, expensive fabric was a masterclass in deception, designed to project an executive aura of urban renewal while masking an ice-cold system of personal greed and absolute manipulation. Behind that progressive public servant facade lay a staggering double life that exploited the city's resources for personal luxury. On a warm spring night on May 14, 2007, inside a luxurious suite at the Athenaeum Hotel, the dazzling illusion of public service dissolved into raw agony for a city struggling to survive. Under warm golden lighting, Kilpatrick hosted an exclusive party where public funds were aggressively diverted to finance lavish entertainment, heavy drugs, and prostitutes. In that setting, secret deals were formed. Kilpatrick promised multi-million-dollar city contracts to construction contractors in exchange for envelopes of cash and secret kickbacks routed into his mistress's account. Hidden surveillance equipment captured him laughing loudly while collecting the money. But his absolute undoing arrived in late October 2008 inside City Hall. When explicit text messages and bribery trails threatened to shatter his empire, he launched a desperate cover-up campaign, deleting thousands of messages from official devices and threatening subordinates with public disgrace if they spoke out. The systemic blade of a federal investigation ultimately recovered the data, exposing an unfillable void where civic leadership belonged and sealing a 28-year prison sentence in 2013 that transformed a political savior into a monument of corruption. The booming gavel of a federal judge echoes through a packed courtroom, instantly silencing the vibrant hip-hop anthems that once accompanied a mayor's arrogant march to absolute power. Aaron Hernandez. Mode B, the reverse tragedy. A multi-million-dollar contract with the New England Patriots, a roaring stadium of 80,000 fans screaming his name, and a spectacular touchdown catch in the Super Bowl saw a terrifyingly athletic powerhouse standing at the absolute zenith of the sports world. A legendary tight end wrapped in a dazzling stage illusion of a flawless, iconic career. Yet, if you rewind the tape of destiny by just a few years, you are thrust back into a cold, metallic world of unbridled paranoia and senseless executions. Long before his physical form completely wasted away inside a sterile prison cell, Aaron Hernandez lived a toxic double life where the crushing pressure of fame merely accelerated a violent, internal decay. On the night of June 17, 2013, at 12:45 a.m., the picture-perfect illusion of his luxury lifestyle was permanently shattered inside a quiet industrial area in North Attleboro, Massachusetts. Driven by an unfillable void of absolute paranoia, Hernandez led a semi-pro football player named Odin Lloyd into a dark patch of concrete among rows of shipping containers, unleashing 5 close-range gunshots that left Lloyd lifeless simply because he suspected the man had been talking badly about him. The systemic blade of the investigation quickly closed in, but as forensic teams dismantled his empire, they stumbled upon an even darker secret. A year prior, on July 16, 2012, outside a Boston nightclub, Hernandez had already proven his ice-cold disregard for human life, pulling up beside a car and firing a brutal barrage into a crowd, killing 2 Brazilian men simply because a drink had been accidentally spilled on his shirt. In 2015, a first-degree murder conviction handed down a life sentence without parole, a sudden drop into raw agony that culminated 2 years later when the fallen superstar chose to end his own life behind bars. The triumphant roar of a packed football stadium is instantly choked out by the heavy, echoing clank of a steel prison door, permanently locking away a broken titan with the ghosts of his victims. Ray Carruth. Mode C, the immersive witness. I remember watching the pristine, silver and blue jersey of the Carolina Panthers tearing down the football field, carrying a rookie wide receiver who possessed enough blinding speed to command the forgiving spotlight of the entire NFL. He was a rising sports powerhouse wrapped in a dazzling stage light's aura of infinite potential. But if you stood on that dark, desolate suburban road in Charlotte on the night of November 16, 1999, you would have felt the exact moment that beautiful illusion collapsed into absolute horror. I can still envision the scene at 11:50 p.m., the sparse streetlights barely piercing a gloomy atmosphere as a car driven by Cherika Adams, Carruth's 8-month pregnant girlfriend, moved slowly down the road. Ahead of her, Carruth sat inside his own vehicle, using his physical presence to break and block her path, ruthlessly holding her in place like a lamb to the slaughter. Suddenly, a tailing car accelerated alongside her window, and a brutal barrage of gunfire exploded into the quiet night, shattering glass and tearing through Cherika's body. The sudden drop from an elite athlete to a cold-blooded conspirator was total. Carruth had orchestrated this public execution for a single, monstrous reason: to avoid the financial obligation of child support. In a desperate fight against a silent predator, a bleeding Cherika managed to call emergency services, providing the definitive evidence that unmasked Carruth before she tragically succumbed to her injuries. Emergency doctors miraculously saved the baby from her dying body, though severe brain damage left the child with lifelong scars. Carruth attempted a cowardly escape but was captured inside a car trunk, a pathetic end that exposed an unfillable void of human empathy and earned him an 18 to 24-year prison sentence that permanently buried his name in absolute disgrace. The frantic, desperate beeping of a hospital heart monitor suddenly flatlines into a long, continuous tone, instantly drowning out the stadium echoes of a career that was traded for the blood of an unborn child. Kellen Winslow 2. Mode D, the systemic critique. Examine the dangerous exceptionalism embedded in sports dynasties, and you will see how the forgiving spotlight of an athletic legacy can shield a monstrous predator from public scrutiny. Kellen Winslow 2 was not just an NFL star. He was the son of a Hall of Fame legend, a physical powerhouse wrapped in a dazzling stage light's illusion of elite heritage. Yet, this pedigree functioned as a perfect camouflage for a terrifying double life targeted at the most vulnerable members of society. The systemic blade of his entitlement first manifested on June 22, 2003, inside a Miami apartment, where he spiked the drink of a 17-year-old girl with a sedative, inflicting the raw agony of an unconscious sexual assault before utilizing malicious threats of expulsion to bury her trauma in silence. As the industry protected his image, his predatory instincts grew bolder. On May 13, 2018, the picture-perfect family aura dissolved completely on a secluded road near Encinitas Beach. Winslow targeted a 54-year-old homeless woman walking alone, trapping her inside his vehicle with a knife, and subjecting her to a brutal assault in the back seat before tossing her a few bills as if her humanity were disposable. Less than 5 months later, on October 7, 2018, the illusion shattered permanently inside a Carlsbad gym locker room, where he cornered a 60-year-old woman working out alone, committing lewd acts that left her in an absolute state of panic. When a mountain of forensic evidence finally crushed his defense in 2021, the public was left staring into an unfillable void where an athletic hero once stood, forced to confront a definitive 14-year prison sentence that proved fame had merely weaponized an uncontrollable predator. The vibrant, high-energy promotional posters of an NFL superstar are violently ripped down from a stadium wall, exposing the cold, sterile concrete of a prison intake facility where a legacy is permanently erased. Cash out. Mode E, the paradox of peaks. In the early 2010s, John Michael Hakeem Gibson was riding the absolute peak of the rap industry. A rising star whose multi-platinum anthem Cashin' Out blasted from every club speaker and car radio across America. He stood beneath the dazzling stage lights as a symbol of youthful luxury, wrapped in a picture-perfect illusion of independent musical triumph. Yet, this very peak served as the ultimate hunting ground, a deceptive lure for a highly calculated underworld empire of human trafficking. The sudden drop into a horrifying double life was fully exposed in mid-September 2023 inside an ordinary two-story suburban house on the outskirts of Atlanta. Gibson weaponized his social media verified status, sending seemingly kind messages that promised life-changing music contracts to young, naive girls. The moment they stepped past the threshold, the glamorous marriage between hip-hop and luxury evaporated into pure raw agony. Phones were aggressively confiscated, doors were locked from the outside, and the rap star morphed into an ice-cold dictator who ran his operation like a prison camp. The cruelty was a family affair. His biological mother, Linda Smith, stood as a direct accomplice, guarding the exits and tracking the victims' every movement. These young women were forced to sell their bodies at hotels near the Atlanta airport to meet strict daily revenue quotas. When a 21-year-old girl failed to reach her $1,000 target, she was subjected to brutal physical punishment. On April 11, 2024, at 3 a.m., inside a cheap motel near Interstate 285, Gibson dragged a 19-year-old girl he had lured from Florida into a locked room. When she refused to sleep with an older man, the rapper pulled out a gun, threatening her life until she submitted to 5 separate men while he sat outside collecting the cash. By 2025, the systemic blade of a federal task force tore down the facade. Pile after pile of victim testimonies revealed an unfillable void of human empathy, resulting in a crushing sentence of life in prison, plus an additional 70 years, leaving his musical legacy permanently buried under a mountain of depravity. The upbeat, rhythmic club beat of a summer anthem distorts and dies, replaced by the chilling, metallic echo of a heavy padlock securing a dark basement where a star traded human souls for cash. Marlon King. Mode F, the inanimate observer. If the shattered shards of a heavy drink glass swept from the floor of a Hertfordshire roadside bar could speak, they would recount the violent disintegration of an elite athletic facade. To the British public, Marlon King was a powerhouse striker, a celebrated football star wrapped in a dazzling stage lights illusion of professional success and physical brilliance. But that sporting prestige was merely a mask for involatile double life defined by unbridled aggression. On the night of October 9, 2008, the flashing lights of a high-end London nightclub witnessed the first major fracture in his picture-perfect image. When a young woman politely rejected his advances on a crowded dance floor, his ego snapped. King unleashed a brutal, sudden slap that fractured the girl's cheekbone, leaving her in raw agony while security dragged him out into a subsequent 18-month prison sentence. Yet, his destructive trajectory could not be curbed by a cell. On February 15, 2010, the surveillance cameras at Heathrow Airport watched King walk through security with absolute indifference, having financed his first-class tickets and luxury designer items with over $15,000 in stolen credit cards. When cornered by security staff, the athlete chose violence over accountability, punching an airport employee straight in the face and causing a 2-hour delay across the terminal. The final sudden drop materialized in July 2013, when an argument over a bar bill ended with King breaking the establishment owner's teeth. He fled the scene in his Porsche, speeding recklessly down a narrow road while eating snacks, forcing an oncoming family to swerve sharply to avoid a fatal head-on collision. While a catastrophic pileup ensued behind him, King drove away, leaving behind an unfillable void of ruined lives and securing an additional 18-month sentence that permanently erased his athletic legacy from the pitch. The roaring chanting of thousands of football fans inside a packed stadium is abruptly cut short, replaced by the chaotic screech of tires and a sickening crunch of fiberglass on a dark country road. Take K. Mode G, the psychological ghost. Inside the volatile, hyper-digitized mind of Tamor McIntyre, an earth-shattering secret was transformed into a viral marketing strategy before the world even knew his name. On the internet, he was Tay-K, wrapped in a dazzling stage light's illusion of dangerous Gen Z authenticity that captivated millions of impressionable fans. But that hyper-violent persona was a psychological ghost that completely overtook his reality, convincing him that real-world brutality could be utilized as a stepping stone to global fame. The systemic blade of internet celebrity culture had convinced him that accountability didn't apply to a viral phenomenon, a delusion that took a lethal turn on the night of July 23, 2016. He led a home invasion crew into a residence in Mansfield, Texas, standing completely unfazed as a single, cold-blooded gunshot left homeowner Ethan Walker bleeding out on the floor. While placed under strict house arrest for this murder, McIntyre chose to cut off his ankle monitor, fleeing justice and executing a frantic, violent crime spree that plunged multiple victims into raw agony. He stopped at a San Antonio park to savagely beat a 65-year-old man into unconsciousness simply for looking at his getaway vehicle. Then, on August 26, 2017, the absolute sudden drop occurred when he burst into the home of photographer Mark Anthony Saldivar to execute a lethal robbery. What left the world in a state of absolute shock was his reaction to the slaughter. Instead of hiding, he used Saldivar's own high-end camera equipment to shoot the music video for his track, The Race, flashing a triumphant smile directly at the lens while boasting about his fugitive status. The video turned a gruesome murder scene into hyper-profitable internet entertainment, racking up millions of views. But the forgiving spotlight of social media algorithms evaporated on the exact day the video dropped, resulting in his immediate capture. The legal system delivered its final receipt, handing down a devastating 80-year prison sentence that permanently locked a teenage phenomenon away, leaving behind a ruined internet legacy and an unfillable void where 2 human lives were traded for a viral hit. The upbeat, high-energy trap beat of a viral streaming hit is instantly silenced by the heavy, mechanical slide of a prison isolation door, leaving a teenage rapper to spend the next 8 decades recounting the cost of his digital masterpiece. These 17 life stories reveal a chilling glimpse behind the glamorous velvet curtain of Hollywood, a system designed to create an absolutely perfect image while silently raking in a ruthless, meticulously calculated fee. They are a powerful, haunting reminder that behind every immortal icon lies a fragile human being silently battling their own choices, struggles, and regrets. Which story has changed your perspective on Hollywood the most? Leave a comment below and share your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications, and join us as we continue to expose the unseen dark side of the entertainment world. See you next time. Let's continue to see through the illusions.